Ladies and gentlemen, the play's the thing with your host, Judy Sleed. Special guest, Debbie Tuma, world famed travel writer. Now here's Judy.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Lee. And I have Debbie Tuma with me, who is a world-famous travel writer. She just came back from a fabulous trip. From where?
Well, I'm a travel writer for, I'd say, since 1994. And I recently went on a trip to Santa Fe, and it's, of all the places, I have never been to Santa Fe, even in my whole life. And it's a place I've always thought about going and never have actually been to. And all of a sudden, a friend of mine who's an artist wanted to go out there to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, and I like Georgia O'Keeffe too. So we decided to travel out by train, which is another adventure because she doesn't fly. So we took Amtrak all the way across the country.
Oh my gosh, how long did it take you?
It was like from New York to Chicago was about 21 hours, and from Chicago to Santa Fe was about 26.
Oh, so you were sitting all that time?
No, you really don't. That's a myth. On the trains, actually, you can get up and walk around, and you can go to the observation car. Once you get to Chicago, they have an observation car, which is all glass. You can sit in there and you can look out the window, take pictures, meet people from all over the United States, which was really fun. Then you could go into the dining car.
I was just going to ask you, because when I see these old movies, people travel by train, they always go to the dining car.
Yeah. The food isn't really bad. They have wine, they have napkins, they have like elegant service, and it was, I wouldn't say elegant, but it was pretty nice, you know, for the train, and it's social and people meet each other.
And is it rocking? Is it moving a lot?
It is.
Yeah.
And every so often they let you out when they stop along the way. You have to always get out and get fresh air. And they stop and they call it a smoke break, and you go from maybe 5 minutes to some stops as many as an hour. When we got to Kansas City, it was an hour to just walk around. You need to stretch your legs.
So that's an adventure by itself.
By itself, which I never planned on. But well, I don't know, and the coolest part about that is most people who go to Santa Fe fly there, and you could fly into Albuquerque, obviously, and then you take like a shuttle bus all the way, you know, maybe it's about an hour ride to Santa Fe. The way we came on the train, we arrived in Lamy, New Mexico, Lamy, in the middle of nowhere, and this little, it looked like a little western town, but there wasn't much to it, and a western little station. And there was a shuttle bus, the Lamy shuttle, that takes you right to Santa Fe. It's about 18 miles to get there, so it's about half an hour. And I just have to say, the wildest part for me was, I mean, I'm always wondering, what does Santa Fe look like? You imagine the adobe and the pueblo, and man, the second you get there and you come over, well, it's all mountains and it's all desert when you get there, and then you come into the town, and it's like a kind of a dirt road sort of thing, and you come in and you look over the town, and it's all adobe and all pueblo houses. Every single, I thought there would be a lot of it, but I didn't know that every single house is adobe. Every single building. They have these strict zoning regulations where Santa Fe has to look the same, and it was all brown. They make a joke. They say, if you want a purple house, don't come to Santa Fe. It's 37 shades of brown.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess nobody knows that.
Well, they probably do, but so
I never knew that.
I didn't know it was all that much. It was really, it looked like kind of something out of Disneyland. I mean, to me, it was unique, very different, very different.
So what did you went to see this art show?
We went to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, which is really famous. We went on a tour of the city. They have a lot of city tours, and that starts from the plaza, the main, in Santa Fe in the middle, there's a big plaza. And there's stores and shops and Indians, real Native American Indians selling their jewelry and their wares. And we got on a tour and we saw Canyon Road and the old Santa Fe Trail. And in Canyon Road, you'd be interested because you love art. There's 100 galleries, art galleries, right within about a half a mile. It's amazing how many art galleries there are.
And people go there to look at art.
Yeah, and sculpture.
So I guess they have a lot of tourists coming
A
there.
lot of tourists. It's fascinating. There's so much art there. And I just want to say, because I don't want to spend my whole time just talking about Santa Fe, because there's so many other great places, but I stayed in fabulous hotels, one downtown and one in the mountains outside. And the one downtown is, where you're in the city, is called Hotel Santa Fe. And it was fascinating because it's a big adobe, that fits into the style. It's Pueblo style. And you go in, and the owner and his wife traveled all over the Southwest, New Mexico and other states, collecting Native American artifacts and artwork, and put it all up in their hotel. So it's like a real total museum of Native American art and tribal costumes and arrows and bows and amazing artwork and buffaloes. And it's so Native American. You walk in and the whole thing is like a gallery. It's a cool decor. Very interesting hotel.
How big
Santa
is the
Fe.
hotel?
It's pretty big. I can't remember how many rooms exactly, but everywhere you look, it's the colors of Santa Fe. It's the turquoise and the browns and the Indian this and that. And there's a dining room, and we had a lovely room overlooking a teepee, a 30-foot teepee. They have a teepee in the back, and you can get married in the teepee, and you can eat in the teepee. Private dinner.
So the hotel
cool.
has a lot of stories. How many?
Oh, actually, this is another thing in Santa Fe, no more than maybe 2 or 3, because the buildings have to be low. They have a restriction of no more than 3 stories. So they don't have any high rise.
So how could you look down on a 30-foot teepee?
Well, no, you don't really look down. When I was in the dining room, you go outside and there's a patio in the Hotel Santa Fe in the back, and they have a teepee. And it's maybe 20 feet high, 30 feet high. And these are pretty big. It's like this whole rug right here. And you can bring in a private table and have dinner with your guests in a teepee for dinner, which is really interesting in the summer.
It is. It's the whole thing to me sounds fascinating.
So
Yeah.
I love that
and you
hotel.
said you went to another hotel in the mountains?
Yeah, and I just want to add that this Hotel Santa Fe had a fabulous spa as well. A lot of the hotels today have spas, which is very big in the tourist industry, and I love to go there. I think a spa is a great addition to a hotel, because when you're traveling, especially like we did on trains, you're like, your back's killing you, your shoulders are killing you. There's nothing like a hot tub of massage treatments, so I love that. It really makes you relax. So the other hotel we went to was called the Bishop's Lodge Resort Ranch. It's a Bishop's Lodge Ranch and Resort. And it's a ranch and it's a resort, and it's about only 5 minutes from downtown Santa Fe, but it's in the mountains overlooking the whole area. And if you love nature, it's in the mountains with the forest, and it's just, you hear streams, rolling streams. You drive up, it's on 450 acres. And it has many buildings and many things to do at Bishop's Lodge. It's very famous, and it's also historic. The first Archbishop of Santa Fe went there as a retreat, created it as a retreat. So they have an old church, a very historic church that dates back. There's a lot of religious things going on in Santa Fe with their faith, with the Catholic faith and the Spanish and all that. So they have that. Plus they have a huge restaurant, and it's very gourmet, 4-star, 5-star restaurant, beautiful. They have many different lodges you can stay in, and then there's ranches and horses, so there's horseback riding. And beautiful views. It's really known for the history and the views of the whole area. So we did a little horseback riding, had fabulous food.
You did?
Walked around Bishop's Lodge, and they also have a nice spa, Sha-Na-Na, it's like the song, but it's like Sha-Na Spa. And that's in a garden. Everything's in nature there. You walk to the spa, you walk through flowers.
It's so beautiful.
It's so restful. If you want a real retreat in the mountains, that's a great place, Bishop's Lodge. So I found that a fascinating place. So we had the city and we had the country, and it was a nice trip.
And was this an assignment you went on?
Yes.
So have you written about it
In the
already?
process of writing it. That's always the hardest part when you come back from a trip, is getting together your notes, and of course having the pictures really helps.
Well, all the things you've told me so far, I mean, you could write just about a book.
You always can, and secret is taking good pictures too. And now with the digital cameras, it makes it much easier. When I first started writing, I used to use the old cameras and develop all my film and hope I didn't ruin the film in the airports.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and today, man, you just stick your camera right in and nothing happens to it, which is good.
Well, of course, the technology, it's so much easier to do things today.
Exactly.
So, and you went back on the train also?
We did. Don't ask me how. We took the train, and when we got to Chicago, we had about a 6-hour layover, so we just walked all over Chicago to get that exercise from sitting on the train, and that was good. And wouldn't you believe that Chicago was rainy and cold? What a shock. Oh, it's never quite sunny and nice, except in the summer.
Yeah. Well, that's really, I love this whole story you told me. And then where else have you been?
Well, I'm doing a road trip. My next trip is going to be a road trip from here down to the Carolinas, just writing about Virginia Beach, Cookeville, Tennessee, which is a historical little town in Tennessee, and Asheville, North Carolina, where my sister lives, which is one of the top retirement areas in the country for recreation, mountains. It's in the Appalachian Mountains. They have a lot. They have the Biltmore Estate there. They have the Grove Park Inn, which is a famous inn that a lot of presidents have stayed in. Asheville's pretty interesting.
And
I haven't been to Virginia Beach yet, though, and I haven't been to Cookeville.
I haven't either. So
So
this is also an assignment? People send you an
I'm
assignment?
freelancing this out for to see if I can write a story, because I'm going to go anyway, and that's what happens sometimes. I might go on my own somewhere and then try to sell a story. Other times, magazines call up and actually assign me to places before I go,
Yes.
which happens a lot too, and that's how I go to places I wouldn't have thought of going. Like, a funny story, when I was living in Manhattan I had a landlord from Malta, and he used to tell me all about Malta. And Malta, to me, at the time, I was like in my 20s, was like such a place I never thought of going. You don't meet many people who go to Malta, maybe Italy, but... So anyway, I learned all about it from him, and then lo and behold, somebody called me up, maybe it was in the late 90s, and asked me if I would do a story on Malta, and I ended up going. And I ended up looking up my landlord's family, and I met his brothers, and it was in this remote island off of Malta called Gozo. And I had never in my life dreamed I'd ever go to Gozo, but this just happened. And my landlord and I became best friends. Of course, he didn't, he wasn't crazy about me, because when I was in my 20s, I used to bring in many people, have parties, and I was a little bit loud as a tenant. And he'd always be screaming, turn down the noise, turn down the music. But then after I went to Gozo and went to Malta, he was my best friend. I showed him pictures of his brother. I took the ferry. His brother was the ferry captain. I met them. It was pretty wild after all those years to see that part of the world. Malta is an incredible country to go visit, because it's in the center of the trade in the Mediterranean Sea. It's been conquered by every nation, from the Vikings to the Germans to I'm trying to think, let's see who else. Everybody conquered it at one point, and then the blend of the food and the culture and the language is Arabic, and a little of the German, a little English, a little Viking, a little all kinds of things.
Great. So where do you get this talent? Did your parents were writers or adventurers?
No, it's quite the opposite. My father never left Montauk. My father and I were opposites, completely different. He loved Montauk, fished there all his life, never had a desire to travel. Wasn't into the creative arts, and we were really just different. My mother, on the other hand, she was an artist, and she liked to travel, and she loved art. She wasn't a writer, but she had a creative side to her, very big creative side. So the writing really didn't come from them, but actually I think it was probably from my mother's father, who was a campaign manager for some presidents and people who ran for president. He was the campaign manager for Barry Goldwater, and he was always in public relations, writing, and politics on the West Coast. He's from California. So I might have gotten that from him. He was a world traveler, too.
So, Debbie, you were born here in Hamptons.
In Montauk.
In Montauk.
Yeah.
Which is not too far, like a stone throw away, they say.
Yeah, I went to high school in East Hampton, actually.
You did?
Actually, which just reminded me, my high school English teacher, who was a fabulous, her name was Eunice Juckett Meeker. Many people in East Hampton will remember her because she was very big in the LVIS and in many organizations. She was a great English teacher who taught at East Hampton High School for many years, maybe 30 or 40 years. But her part-time career was travel writer. So she taught English, but then she traveled on all her vacations and summers all over the world and brought back things from her trips. And I would...
Did you ever go with her?
No.
No. And
No, but
she
I'd
brought
listen to
gifts
her,
for you.
just listen to her experiences, and I always thought, how cool is that as a job, you know? And it wasn't full-time, but she did it. And then when she retired, that's what she did full-time. So and she inspired a lot of people, you know, and she got that.
And including you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to be like her.
yeah. But I always like traveling anyway. I mean, some people just don't like it. It's not their thing. But I'd rather be on the road than probably in my house, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, well, that is interesting that, you know, when you go on trips, you see a lot of things, especially when you take a train, then you really see a lot more than when you go by plane.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Have you ever, do you like to travel?
Yeah, but I took a train once to Texas, but it was not a good experience. And as a matter of fact, I said, I want to come back by plane. So even though I bought a return ticket, I just gave it up because it was just, to me, that was too much, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, not all trips are great, but I can honestly say this is the really, of all the trips I've ever taken, I've never had a bad trip, luckily, knock on wood. I mean, I've had things go wrong and things happen and things in planes, and one time a cruise ship lost power in this, and we were in the Bermuda,
Oh my gosh.
we were in the Bermuda Triangle, and it lost power for about almost 20 hours, and we were floating at sea in the dark with no air conditioning on a cruise ship, which was a little strange, but it turned out to actually be fun. They opened the bar, and we were floating, and we didn't know where we were. We didn't know where we were going, and it was a little bit scary.
Did you
but
find out what happened? Why?
we found out later that I guess one of the engines had a problem or something like that.
At the Bermuda Triangle?
We were in the Bermuda.
Scary.
It was at night because there was no lights on the ship, and that happened about 7 at night.
But weren't you thinking of all those eerie stories?
Yeah, you are. But I really like boats, and I had a feeling that they'd somehow fix it. I didn't think it was never going to happen, that we would get back to Florida. We were about, maybe about a day from getting back to Florida to fly home after going to the Caribbean on this cruise ship. So, but it all worked out. They got the engines going, and even though we had to sleep on the deck because we couldn't sleep in our room because there was air conditioning was too hot this summer.
Yeah.
That was kind of a wild experience. But you're bound to have things like that. But it's just part of the trips, you know. There's always delays.
With your attitude, it's wonderful. Were there any people on the boat who were scared?
Yeah, probably scared, but
They didn't cause any problems?
no, we got through it. And I might add that, you know, growing up in Montauk, I always felt a little sheltered because we're way out at the end of the island, and I always wanted to see the world anyway. And I ended up going to college right after high school, so I didn't get to go anywhere major. And then when I was in college during the 70s, it was the big thing that everybody was backpacking in Europe. That was the big time. Everybody dropped out, got a backpack, went around Europe. Everybody was doing that. So I said to my parents, I want to do that. So they go, no, if you go backpacking around Europe, you're never going to finish high school. I mean, college, sorry. This was in college.
Where did you go to college?
I went upstate New York, Russell Sage College, which is a private women's college, which is where Mrs. Juckett also went, and she told me I should go there. Because it had
who?
my teacher from East Hampton High School I was telling you about.
Yes.
She went to the same college, and she said the English department was good, so I went there.
Whereabouts upstate?
It's in Troy, New York, by Albany. So I stayed in college, and I listened to my parents because they thought if I went to Europe in college, I'd never graduate. And I thought I should graduate. So after graduation, 4 days later, I got on a plane and went to Moscow.
No.
And I was in Russia for 26 days on a student, it was supposed to be a student tour.
Yeah.
Because my college had a student tour of Russia, so I signed up. But at the last minute, we didn't get the 15 people we needed, so they canceled it. So then I got on to a regular tour, because I was all psyched to go. So my Russian history professor put me on a regular tour, and I didn't know anybody. It was just myself. I was 22. And I had to fly out of Montreal, so I got all the way to Montreal, got on the plane, but I did know there was 4 people my age at the time. I didn't want to be with all people in their 40s and 50s if I was 22. So there was 4 of us the same age, so we all went with 26 people for 26 days all over 9 cities at
In
the time.
Russia?
Yeah, in the 70s, and so Brezhnev was the leader. And the first night we were there, we went to Red Square, and I remember because I had read all about it. And this was during the Cold War, so it was all under communism. So there was so many myths about Russia, like the second you get there, everything's going to be bugged, and you can't talk, and they're going to follow you, and all that, Big Brother. But none of that happened. I felt very free once I got there, even though we had to have a Russian guide everywhere we went. I felt like I could go where I wanted, do what I wanted. That was a college kid. I don't think they were really concerned about me.
So how did you learn any Russian or?
I had to pick up a few words, like "das vidanya," which means goodbye. And I learned the word for ice cream at the time, but I can't remember what it was. And as long as you know the name of some vodka, then you're okay. A lot of vodka on the trip, and yeah, it was really interesting. It really opened my eyes at the time to a whole different culture. When you're that young and you go someplace so far away, I would advise all young children or young adults to go traveling.
To get their backpacks and
Yeah,
get going.
yeah, before they settle into the 9 to 5,
Right.
or take
Well,
a
that's
vacation.
very interesting that you were such a free spirit and you just went all over. So now you do writing, freelance travel writing.
Yeah.
I was married once and he did travel writing.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
And he was a travel writer and I went with him on a lot of trips.
did you? Fantastic.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. So, but I didn't go to Russia or Santa Fe.
Yeah, but you went where did you go?
Well, mostly in the islands, like Caribbean
Islands.
Yes,
That's fabulous.
yes.
They're fabulous.
They are. So it's all like fun places, like resorts,
Nice.
nice resorts, and we always were treated like royalties because, I mean, people who they know that you're going to write about them, so they want to put their best foot forward.
That is true. You do get treated well on the trips. If you go on press trips, and that happened for me. A lot of the traveling earlier in my life, I just did on my own, and I just wrote about it and things like that. But lastly, another interesting thing was, I guess it was in the mid-'80s. I was living in Manhattan, and I got really tired of the city, and I wanted to be in the Hamptons, but then I was tired of that too, so I wanted somewhere else. So I answered an ad in the paper to be an editor at the Fire Island newspaper for the summer. And I was in my early 30s, and I said, maybe I'll just try Fire Island as a different place to go. So my assistant managing editor and I became really good friends. Her name is Lori Bain Wilson, and she's another travel writer. And we were just met as, working on the paper for the summer, having a good time on Fire Island. And then eventually she became the travel editor of Bridal Guide magazine, which is a big national magazine. And then she would send me on trips, which is pretty wild because she's the one that sent me to Malta. And
then the Bridal
Guide magazine writes about
there is
honeymoon travel.
So they have a travel column.
Yeah, travel. And it was honeymoon oriented because it's Bridal Guide. So most of the places I got to go were the Caribbean, like you said, the Caribbean islands and Mexico. And they go to Hawaii, I guess, too, the main honeymoon places. But the funniest part of it is they send you by yourself. So here you are writing about a honeymoon, but you're in this beautiful suite with
By
a
yourself.
double heart-shaped bed,
Yeah.
and a jacuzzi and a balcony and little rose petals on the pillow, and you're there by yourself going, "What's something's wrong with this picture? Where's the groom?" So you do these honeymoon stories, but that was also a lot of fun because I got to go to a lot of Caribbean places like you did, and Mexico I really like too. This jacket's from Mexico.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you go to these exotic places, do you go shopping?
Oh yes.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, yes, you eat like crazy and you shop and you party and you
Did you bring
take a lot of
souvenirs?
notes. Yeah, I do. I don't go nuts because after a while you can only put so much in your house. But
Yes.
different travel writers have different collections. Some people collect boats, some people collect magnets. That's a big one for your fridge,
Yeah.
And some people collect, I'm trying to think, things that they travel.
Spoons.
Spoons, that's a big one.
Yes, I remember somebody was collecting spoons every
Yeah,
time.
or dolls, little dolls from different
Yes,
countries,
yes.
I never had a real theme, I don't think. I just kind of like see things I like.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So,
Well, it's been so wonderful chatting with you with all these things, and I'm sure you have a lot more to say, and we just ran out of time.
well, I'm glad it went fast.
It always does, especially when you have interesting things to talk about. And I hope you could probably come back and talk about some other of your adventures. And you were on my show like a few years back, and I can't even remember what we talked about.
Probably local news.
Local news.
Because when I'm not traveling, I cover local news.
Oh yes, I see you a column sometimes in Dan's paper and some other local newspaper. So it was such a wonderful, I had a good time listening to you, Debbie.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, Judy. And I hope you have a good summer now. It's coming into a good season to be here.
Right, yes.
Why leave the Hamptons in the best time of the year, right?
Yeah, all the people are going to come back. We're going to be very busy. All the roads are going to be busy. It's going to take us a lot longer to get from A to B.
Yeah, but look at the positive side. We're going to have the ocean, we're going to have the swimming, and we're going to have the good times.
And we don't have to travel far to get it. This is a beautiful community here. So we'll talk again real soon. And are you going someplace soon, like you, as far as traveling? Or are you going to just stay home now and write your column?
I got to get all these articles written right now from Santa Fe right now.
Yes, it was really fascinating what you said about Santa Fe. And you even gave a plug to Amtrak.
Yeah, I did, actually. People wouldn't assume that, but it is
Yes.
something different.
So would you say that a lot of people travel on a train to